Joining us now in the studio are our guests, Ernest Opuni, the sports analyst, and Box Talk UK founder and sports commentator, Adi Oladipo. Gents, let's start with the football. Tim Sherwood gone today. Are you surprised by this? They're second from bottom, Aston Villa. Who could potentially step into the fold now?
First and foremost, not surprised, doesn't make it any less strange a decision for me. I'm not quite sure what they're expecting from him. There might be some names that will come to the fore, but you imagine someone like Brendan Rodgers might come into the equation. There are suggestions, there are other people who are in jobs who potentially might be interested in it. But for me, the baseline is I'm not quite sure why they've got rid of him so swiftly.
Chelsea, Jose Mourinho, another loss for them, 5th of the season now. Is he the next one to go, do you think, Addy?
Of his own accord, yes. I don't think he'll get sacked. He leaves jobs, doesn't he, to be fair, after 3 seasons. He's kind of at that wobbly stage now. This is my 3rd season. What am I doing here? I need to get out. They've got holes everywhere, in defence, in goal, up front, they're blunt. Midfield, does he like Hazard? Doesn't he like Hazard? Now it's Fabregas getting dropped. What's going on? I don't think he's the type of manager that will rebuild a team. He doesn't rebuild teams. If it's not working, then he'll be gone. Will he be the next manager to go? Who knows? I didn't expect Sherwood to go either, to be honest. So I don't know who's going to be the next manager to go, but he's definitely one of the candidates and one of the favourites to go. Yes, certainly.
What do you think's gone wrong for Chelsea this season? They just don't seem to be gelling, do they? And they're 15th in the league. This is their worst start in almost 40 years.
It feels as though the base upon which they built their championships, including last season's, is now starting to look like a vulnerability. So they've always built from the back to the front. They're now very muddled at the back. The first goal yesterday was probably another example of it. They're not quite sure how that plays out. There's also a sense overall of a club not at peace with itself, off the pitch, on the pitch. And I think that's the whole mix. So suddenly, with the same players as last season, you've not quite got the same club. And it's a bit of an odd scenario, really.
I should just mention this as well. Arsenal are top of the league. I don't know if you've seen that, gents. Being an Arsenal fan, that's great news. But have the fans got a lot to be optimistic for this year? I mean, it looks good right now, but can they keep this run going?
Yeah, I think they actually can. I mean, I look at the squad and you look at the other squads and everyone else seems to be struggling. Arsenal seems to be the one that seems to have a squad that is there and it has been there for the last 2-3 seasons. They haven't made any changes at all, really. Peter Cech's the only one that's come in, and that's not a bad sign, is it, to be honest?
Yeah.
Koscielny looks like a rock at the back now. Coughlin in midfield looks really good defensively. And up front, Giroud has started scoring.
Yeah.
What's going on? And so right now, the spine look really strong. Again, it's all about injuries. If Sanchez can be fit and Ozil can stay fit, look, they're going to go all the way. Bayern Munich will give them a fantastic achievement in the Bayern Munich result. Man United game, again, really good. They're not conceding goals either. That's the thing about Arsenal. I mean, look, do I want them to stay there? No, but it looks like they might stay there. So look, you never know.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at the competitors for the league title this year, Manchester City and Manchester United play today in the big Manchester derby. We should also mention that Sunderland are 1-0 up against Newcastle right now. That's another big derby in the North East in the Premier League. Manchester City versus Manchester United. Who is going to win this one?
Okay, speaking to Man United fans, so obviously I've got to make heart sit in a certain point. I think on paper you would have to say City would look to be the favourites. However, I've just got a sense of City not quite being as complete the package as they have looked. And United at the moment, with the exception of the blip against yourselves and against Arsenal, generally speaking actually are in a decent turn of form. Certain players are just that bit off the top of their form, and I think they have enough to actually do it, especially at Old Trafford.
Sadly, we've run out of time, gents, but we'll come back to you later on in the show. Thank you very much indeed. Well, rejoining me now are our guests, Ernest Opuni, the sports analyst and Box Talk UK founder and sports commentator, Adi Oladipo. So let's talk then about the rugby today. Just a quick reflection on the New Zealand win yesterday, a gritty win. They're the favourites for the final, regardless of who goes through today.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I've stuck with them all the way. You can see why. I think yesterday was a gritty game, but they almost showed that they can play different types of rugby. When it got wet and it got windy and it got difficult and it got physical, they said, okay, we can do this as well. And I think that kind of psychologically affected South Africa in the second half. They weren't able to get as many penalties as they did in the first half, and I just don't think they settled down in the second half. And although it was 2 points, I think mentally it was a kind of a bigger win than that.
It was, but the drop kick, I think, by Carter at the time that it happened was actually critical in terms of really changing the feel for the game for the All Blacks.
Looking ahead to today's game, who do you fancy to win between Australia and Argentina? Is it going to be the Aussies, or is there some... I mean, they've got some returning players now, haven't they?
Yeah. I've got a sneaky suspicion again. Argentina in particular, once upon a time, you could have described them in two ways, that they kick and then they're into what happens in the pack. Actually, they've now got a real free-flowing style. And I'm not convinced Australia actually are as good as we assume that they are, if you look at some of the most recent struggles that they've had. So actually, potentially, this could be one of the best matches because they could be very well matched.
Yeah.
Both very attacking sides. And the Pumas are fearless as well. So.
They're very fast, aren't they? And this World Cup has been quite a fast World Cup when you look at the breakdowns and the way players worked out. It's been a very quick and entertaining tournament so far, hasn't it?
Yeah, breakdown's key, and you mentioned it there. I think Pocock being back, number 8, look, he's the best number 8 in the world by a stretch, to be honest. And he's won his more turnovers than anyone in this tournament so far. So expect him to do really well. Israel Folau's back for them as well. So let's not judge them against the Scotland game. Those two were missing, and that was a close game. With those two back in the team, it's going to be tough for Argentina. Look, Argentina have done so well since they've been added to the Tri-Nations. The way they've improved is just ridiculous. They got to the 2007 World Cup semi-final, and now this one as well. It's just an achievement getting there. And never know, in 4 years' time, they can go all the way. I just feel like this might come too soon. I'd prefer them to go through because I think them against New Zealand's a better game. But I think Australia just have a bit more experience and big game players like Pocock, so I expect them to go through.
We will see. Moving on to Formula One now. The US Grand Prix takes place later today. There's been a lot of issues with the weather. Can Hamilton clinch the title today?
I don't think he actually has to win in order so to do. And even if he doesn't, it's just a postponement. But to be perfectly honest with you, I mean, he must be absolutely sitting very pretty at the moment. If he completes the race, chances are it's going to be very difficult for anyone to stop him being world champion by close of play.
When we look at how the season's worked out for Hamilton, he has pretty much dominated from start to finish, hasn't he? All down to the car or driver ability in that too?
It used to be a time when I said it's 50-50. Nowadays, to be honest, it's more 80-20 car. Hamilton in a bad car 3-4 seasons ago, you know, all the struggles he had. Mercedes right now are just looking so dominant. Their car's looking so dominant as well. So it's hard. He's not going to get as many plaudits as he should get. You know, this is his third world title, and really and truly everyone should be going crazy about it. It's been quite like a damp squid. No one really is talking about it at all. And I think that's because people are starting to realise it's all down to what car you're in. And I think once they sort this out in Formula One, it becomes more competitive. It's more about the driver than the car, and I think they'll then get the fans back. Right now, third title, who's talking about it? No one's talking about it. It's embarrassing.
And very briefly, just before we finish, the NFL comes to London. Buffalo Bills take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. The sport is really spreading, isn't it? Do you think, Ernest? Absolutely.
And the thing is, you know, go back a while, we had a team here, the Monarchs. I just think potentially they need to just carry on what they're doing because they could actually really bet it in this country.
Ernest, Addy, thank you very much indeed for your thoughts today.